Stabnick. I teach AP English Literature and Composition at Miller Place High School, which is on Long Island. And in my previous video, I broke down first-person point of view using Cathedral, a short story by Raymond Carver. Well, in this video, we're going to look at third-person point of view, the various types, and we're going to see it in context. And what I want you to do in this video is to think about how third-person point of view differs from first-person. And just like we did last time, I want you to see its power as well as its limitations. So let's get started. All right, in today's video, 3 big takeaways. Number 1, and this is simple, this is going back to what I did in the previous video. It goes back to what you've done in middle school and high school and probably most of your English classes, and that's identify point of view and know how to recognize it, and specifically how to identify third-person point of view. The second thing, we're going to look at why it's important. And then the third thing is, once again, we're going to be critical, and we're going to see what are the limitations of the third-person point of view. So here we go, definitions. In third-person point of view, the person telling the story is on the outside looking in. They are not a character participating in the action of the story. And this is how it differs from first-person point of view. With first person, that person is in the story. They are a character. Here, the narrator is on the outside and they're looking in. They're removed from it. And that space, that removal is going to be important. And you'll see why in a little bit. Now, there are 3 main types of third-person point of view. The first is objective, and this is where the narrator does not convey the thoughts and feelings of any character, and they relate the events in a neutral way. Another possible third-person point of view is limited. This is when the narrator knows the thoughts of a single character or only a handful of them. And then there's this final one, omniscient. And I had this middle school English teacher when I was growing up who said omni means all, scient means knowing, and omniscient means that the narrator's aware of every character's thoughts and feelings. Let's break it down. Here's an example, just like I mentioned, it's The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. And I'll read this paragraph to you so you can get a feel for it. And I want you to pick up on some of those cues as to which type of third-person point of view we have here. Soon the men began to gather, surveying their own children, speaking of planting and rain, tractors and taxes. They stood together, away from the pile of stones in the corner, and their jokes were quiet, and they smiled rather than laughed. The women, wearing faded house dresses and sweaters, came shortly after their menfolk. They greeted one another and exchanged bits of gossip as they went to join their husbands. Soon the women, standing by their husbands, began to call their children, and the children came reluctantly, having to be called 4 or 5 times. Bobby Martin ducked under his mother's grasping hand and ran, laughing, back to the pile of stones. His father spoke up sharply, and Bobby came quickly and took his place between his father and his oldest brother. So what point of view do we have in the lottery? Well, I didn't see I didn't see we, I didn't see me. So I know that the narrator is not an active participant in the story. It's someone removed from it. So this narrator is outside the story. So I know from that we have third-person point of view, but I'm going to go back 1 slide. I'm going to look closely. I don't see anywhere where the narrator knows the thoughts of the characters. And my eyes are going right to the middle of the page, and I'll read the sentence to you. The women, wearing faded house dresses and sweaters, came shortly after their menfolk. They greeted one another and exchanged bits of gossip as they went to join their husbands. I get no sense of their thoughts and feelings there. In a way, it's almost cold and detached. So as we move forward, I'm realizing that removal, that space where this narrator is disconnected from the story and in a way disconnected from the characters, makes me believe that this is third-person objective. Now, why is this point of view important in the story? Why would Shirley Jackson write this story and leave out the thoughts and feelings of the characters, perhaps of all the characters, or maybe even just a handful of them? Why did she choose to be so objective with this narrator? I got a couple ideas based on the text. So here were my initial thoughts. It's that idea that I said before, reading the evidence from the text. This narrator feels distant. This narrator feels detached from what's going to happen. In a way, it's almost like reporting, where you just state the facts. It's just showing a process that's unfolding, and we don't get thought, we don't get feeling behind it. And that's why I used that word cold before. It's almost unemotional. And I think this may be the key thing. I want to know who these characters are. I want to know what they're thinking and what they're feeling and why the narrator mentions stones twice in that paragraph. There's so many questions, and this is that power that I talked about before. It's forcing me to question this text and really think critically about why this is happening. So in this video, I want you to have some key takeaways about third-person point of view. There are three different types: objective, that we saw here, limited, in which you know the thoughts of a few characters, and omniscient, and that's where the narrator is all-knowing. And in this excerpt today from the lottery, we saw something that was objective. We saw a narrator that was removed from the story and distant. And if you know this story well, there's a good reason for it. There's something about that cold detachment that's going to be important. And if you can pick up on that as a reader, I think it's going to help you be a critical reader, as well as form insights about a story as it unfolds. So the thing I want to leave you with is that process of questioning is going to give you power. We're not reading passively where we're just absorbing words on the page. We're always thinking about purpose and reasoning. And with point of view, it always comes back to perspective and position. And in the lottery, there's a very specific and well-chosen perspective and position. And I don't want to give away too much here, but it's going to lead you down something that could be shocking and interesting. So I hope you check out the story.